Think about the last time you told someone your plan, the promotion you were going to fight for, the person you were falling for, the business you were finally going to start, the move that was going to change everything. You felt it rising in your chest, that pressure to say it out loud, and you let it out. To a friend, a coworker, a rival, a room. It felt good for about a day. Then the thing died. The promotion went to someone who never announced they wanted it. The person you liked cooled the moment they knew exactly how much you wanted them. The rival who smiled and nodded at your idea was 3 steps ahead of you by week's end. You never connected the failure to the moment you opened your mouth, but that was the moment. You handed someone a map of exactly where you were going, and they used it against you. Here's the uncomfortable truth. There are 2 kinds of people in every room. Those who tell you what they want, what they fear, what they're planning, freely, because it feels honest. And those who let you talk, nod, seem open, and give you nothing that matters. When those 2 compete for the same thing, the second kind wins almost every time. Most of us are the first kind. We wear our intentions on our faces, and we lose to people we never saw coming because they made sure we couldn't. What you're about to hear is how the second kind operates. It's a principle so old that emperors used it to swallow rebellions whole, and so precise that entire armies once vanished behind it. The rule is simple to say and brutal in effect. Never reveal the purpose behind your actions. Keep people in the dark about where you're really going. Guide them down the wrong path. Wrap them in enough smoke, and by the time they understand what you were doing, it's already done. It can't be stopped because it's already over. Conceal your intentions. We're going to watch it work twice. Once in the mountains of Ethiopia, where a soft-spoken young man made a warlord's entire army disappear without firing a shot, and let the warlord walk to his own defeat, believing he'd already won. And once on the coast of Europe, where the largest deception in the history of war convinced the most feared military on earth to defend the wrong place at the exact moment everything was on the line. Watch closely. Once you see the shape of this, you'll start seeing it everywhere, including, maybe, in the moments you've been losing your whole life. In the 1920s, Ethiopia was not really one country. It was a patchwork of provinces held together by old loyalties, older grudges, and the personal armies of powerful regional lords. Into the center of that patchwork stepped an unlikely figure, a slight, quiet, almost delicate young man named Ras Tafari Makonnen, regent for the empress, whom the world would one day know by another name, Haile Selassie. To the hard old warlords, Tafari looked like a mistake. He didn't bluster or posture. He spoke softly and preferred negotiation to the battlefield, weakness to men who'd built their reputations on the sword. One by one, though, he was pulling the country under his control, and most lords sensed the wind and bent the knee. One did not. His name was Dejazmach Balcha Safo, a genuine hero, a grizzled veteran who'd made his name decades earlier at the great victory over Italy at Adwa. He was governor of Sidamo, one of the richest provinces in the country, thick with coffee, and there lay the friction. The revenue Balcha sent up to the central government never matched what a province that wealthy should have produced. He was keeping the difference, and everyone knew it. That was the concrete reason the regent recalled him. Not a vague power struggle, but a governor treating a rich province like his personal property. Balcha was contemptuous of the soft young man doing the summoning and refused to come. When he was finally compelled to, in February 1928, he made his answer unmistakable. He didn't come humbly. He came at the head of an army, several thousand armed men, and camped them just outside the capital at a place called Nifas Silk, close enough that everyone understood the message. This was not a subject arriving to pay respect. This was a threat with a beating heart. Balcha was announcing, loudly and physically, exactly what he intended: to be reckoned with, to intimidate, and if it came to it, to fight. And here's the first half of the lesson, playing out before Tafari even makes his move. Balcha broadcast everything: his contempt, his strength, his readiness for violence, his belief that the young regent was a coward. He hid nothing. He wanted the whole city to see his intentions written in the tents on the hillside. He thought that was power. Tafari did something that must have looked to Balcha like surrender. He invited the old warrior to a grand banquet in his honor. a celebration of the Great Dejazmak, hosted by the regent himself. Balcha was insulted, but he wasn't stupid. Banquets had been used as traps before, so he accepted on his terms. He'd bring his personal bodyguard, hundreds of armed men under orders not to touch a drop of drink, and if he wasn't back at camp by nightfall, his army was to march on the capital. He thought he'd covered every angle: his person, poison, ambush in the hall. He never thought to guard the one thing that actually mattered. At the banquet, Tafari was the perfect host, gentle, deferential, almost anxious to please. He treated the old warrior like the most important man in Ethiopia, arranging songs of praise for Balcha alone. Everything about his manner said, "I am nervous, I need you, I am not your equal." Balcha, watching his host bow and scrape, grew more certain by the hour that this boy was exactly the coward he'd assumed. Some of Balcha's own officers, embarrassed by how arrogantly the old man was behaving towards such a gracious host, quietly slipped over to apologize for their master. And the whole time the feast went on, and the wine flowed, and Balcha basked in the songs sung to his glory, another man was 3 miles away doing the actual work. Tafari had sent a trusted ally, Ras Kasa, to Balcha's camp, not with an army, with money. Kasa told the leaderless soldiers that their master and the regent had reached an agreement, that everything was settled, and then he began to pay. Silver coins poured out among the troops in exchange for their weapons. He told them a new governor of Sidamo had already been appointed, that there was nothing left to fight for. Take the silver, hand over the rifle, go home. And they did. Man after man, the army Balcha had built to intimidate a nation simply dissolved, trading guns for coins and walking away. By the time the feast was ending, the only thing that had made Balcha dangerous no longer existed. Picture the old warrior riding back that evening, satisfied, certain he'd taken the measure of his enemy, already planning the day he'd march through the capital and put this pretender in his place. And then he crests the hill and looks down at Nifas Silk. Where there had been an army, there is nothing, empty ground. His soldiers gone, his power gone, vanished into thin air while he sat being toasted, watching the wrong hand the entire time. Balcha had no move left. There was nothing to command. He surrendered, laid down his sword, and his rebellion was over before it ever became a war. Not one shot had been fired. Now understand what actually beat him, because it isn't obvious. Balcha wasn't beaten by a bigger army. He was beaten because he made his intentions the center of attention. The tents, the threats, the bodyguard, the deadline, and Tafari let all that noise become the very thing that blinded him. Balcha guarded the decoy with his life and left the prize completely exposed. That's the whole principle in a single afternoon. Keep people fixed on what you want them to see, and they will hand you what they should have been protecting. Balcha revealed everything and lost everything. Tafari revealed nothing and took it all. And don't write Balcha off as a fool. He was a real warrior to the end. Years later, when Italy invaded Ethiopia, the old man came out of forced retirement to fight the occupiers. And according to the accounts that survive, when a soldier finally cornered him and demanded his weapon, Balcha refused, killed the man, and died on the spot rather than surrender it. That was the caliber of person Tafari dismantled without a fight. Not a weakling, but a dangerous, courageous man who made one mistake. He let everyone see exactly what he intended, and a quieter man used that against him. Skip forward 16 years to the other side of the world, where the same principle gets used not by one man against one warlord, but by a coalition of nations against a war machine, on a scale so vast it's hard to believe it was real. By 1944, the Allies knew they had to invade occupied France. Everyone knew it. The Germans too. You cannot hide massing hundreds of thousands of men and thousands of ships across a narrow sea. The intention was impossible to conceal. But there's a difference between hiding that you'll act and hiding what you'll actually do. The Allies couldn't hide the invasion, so they hid it inside a bigger, louder, more convincing lie. The plan was called Bodyguard, its centerpiece Operation Fortitude. The real blow would fall at Normandy, so the Allies made the Germans certain, down to their bones, that it would fall at the Pas de Calais, the narrowest crossing, the obvious target. Normandy would look like the sideshow, Calais, the main event. To sell a lie that big, you don't whisper. You build an entire false world and let the enemy discover it himself. So the Allies conjured an army out of nothing. The first United States Army Group, on paper, a massive force poised in southeast England, aimed at Calais. Its commander was chosen with cold precision, General George Patton, the American the Germans feared and respected most. Of course, the great Patton would lead the real invasion, launching from directly across the channel from Calais. The logic built itself in the enemy's own mind, which is exactly what you want, because a conclusion a man reaches himself is one he'll defend far harder than anything you tell him. But this army existed mostly in imagination. Inflatable rubber tanks stood where real ones should be, light enough for a few men to lift, perfect from the air. Dummy landing craft of wood and scaffolding floated in the estuaries. Fake camps, fake vehicles, and a torrent of fake radio traffic, all staged for German listeners to piece together. Then came the part that made it all stick. The smokescreen wasn't only physical, it ran through human beings. British intelligence had caught the German spies operating in Britain and instead of jailing them, turned many of them, feeding their handlers a careful diet of falsehood through the spies' own radios. The Germans thought they had eyes inside Britain. They did. Those eyes now belonged to the other side. The greatest of them was a man codenamed Garbo. His real name was Juan Pujol Garcia, a Spaniard who hated the Nazis so deeply he'd forced his way into the deception almost single-handedly. To the Germans, Garbo was their star agent, running a whole network of informants across Britain, almost none of it real. He'd invented most of it himself, a cast of imaginary sub-agents, each feeding him intelligence. He passed dutifully to Berlin. The Germans trusted him so completely, they awarded him the Iron Cross, while every word he sent them was chosen by the very enemy he was supposedly spying on. Calais wasn't even the only false target. The same machinery pointed north, painting a picture of forces gathering in Scotland to strike Norway. Another invented threat that kept German divisions locked far from France, guarding a coastline no one was coming for. Through Garbo and men like him, through the Phantom Army and the rubber tanks and the ghost radio signals, the Allies told the Germans a single, patient story. The weight is at Calais, and whatever you see elsewhere is a trick to pull you away from it. And the Germans believed it. Hitler held powerful divisions back at the Pas de Calais, waiting for an invasion that was never coming. When the real landings hit Normandy on June 6th, the deception didn't collapse, it held. Garbo actually reported that Normandy was the diversion and the true attack was still coming at Calais, and he was believed. German reinforcements that could have hit the Normandy beachhead in those first desperate days were kept waiting in the wrong place, not for hours, but for weeks. Just how deep the deception ran only became clear after the war, when German records were opened. Investigators found that dozens of Garbo's reports had been folded straight into the intelligence summaries at the highest levels of German command. The enemy's own picture of the battlefield, the map their generals made decisions from, had partly been written by the man they trusted most, who was working for the other side the entire time. Think about the discipline in that. The Allies held the most important secret of the war, and the entire strategy depended on never letting it show, on letting the enemy stay confidently, catastrophically wrong for as long as possible. They didn't argue the Germans out of their belief. They fed it, watered it, made the enemy the proud author of his own blind spot, and then walked through it. It's the banquet again, only vast. Fix the enemy's attention where you want it. Let him guard the decoy with everything he has, and move where he isn't looking, because by the time he understands, the beachhead is already yours. So why does this work? Why is it reliable enough to topple warlords and fool armies? Because it isn't really a trick about tanks or banquets. It's a lever placed under a permanent feature of human nature. Start with the deepest reason. We're built to trust appearances. We have to be. You can't walk through a day questioning whether everything you see is a mask over something else. It would be paralyzing. So the mind takes a shortcut and treats the surface as the truth most of the time. Because most of the time, that's good enough. That shortcut is what makes concealment possible. The person hiding something doesn't need to be a brilliant liar. They just need to be unremarkable enough that no one bothers to look closer. Now add the second reason, time and defense. The moment someone knows your plan, they can prepare, ally, undercut you, or brace for it. Balcha's soldiers could only be bribed because the plan stayed secret until it was done. The Germans only left Normandy exposed because they were certain the danger lay elsewhere. Concealment isn't just deception, it's denying your opponent the one thing they need most: time to react. And there's a third reason, quieter, but just as important. Constantly revealing your plans makes you predictable, and predictable people are controllable. If I always know what you want, I know exactly which lever to pull to move you. The person who keeps their real desires hidden is unnerving precisely because no one can find the handle. You can't be manipulated through a door no one knows is there. Then there's why it's so hard to do. We're wired to talk. Holding a plan takes effort. Letting it out brings relief. So most people leak. Confiding to feel less alone, hinting to feel important, letting a flash of reaction cross their face at the worst moment. The people who beat you simply learn to hold it in when it counts. Put it together and you understand the whole engine. People trust the surface. Revealed plans give away time. Predictability invites control. And almost everyone leaks because staying quiet is hard. The one who can wear a calm face over a moving plan is operating with an advantage the talkers can't even see. Fine, history is dramatic, but you're not besieging a province or invading a coastline. So how does this translate into your job, your negotiations, your ambitions, your rivalries? Here's how to put it to work. First, separate what you do from what you say about it. Most people announce a goal, then chase it. Reverse it. Chase it quietly, and let the result be the announcement. The colleague building their case for a promotion in silence is far harder to sabotage than the one telling everyone they're gunning for the corner office. Second, concealment doesn't mean going silent and mysterious. That backfires, since sudden secrecy reads as suspicious. The subtler move: stay open and talkative about things that don't matter, while the thing you actually want stays off the table entirely. You seem transparent, and you send curiosity somewhere harmless. Third, give people a decoy to look at. In both stories, the winner didn't just hide the real move, they supplied something else for attention to land on. A banquet, a phantom army. Human attention has to go somewhere, so choose where. If you seem absorbed in one thing, people stop wondering about the other. Fourth, guard your face in the moments that matter most. In a negotiation, don't let them see how badly you want the deal or how close you are to walking. In a rivalry, don't let a flash of reaction tell your opponent they found a nerve. The calm, unreadable surface isn't coldness, it's a decision not to hand people a map of your insides. And fifth, learn to sit with the pressure to tell. When you're excited about a plan, angry at someone, or afraid of losing something, there's an urge to say it out loud. Feel that urge, and don't obey it automatically. Ask one question first. Does saying this move me closer to what I want? Or does it just relieve the pressure of holding it in? Most of the time, it's only the second one, and the relief costs you far more than the silence ever would. Now, if the story ended there, it'd be a lie of its own. Concealment isn't a magic key that opens every door, and using it in the wrong place costs you more than it gains. Real power means knowing when this rule turns against you. First, concealment only works if people don't already know you as a schemer. It depends on that tendency to trust the surface, but build a reputation for deception, and it reverses. Every calm gesture now reads as a mask. The most effective concealer is the one no one suspects at all. The second limit is about suspicion. Hiding your intentions isn't the same as acting shifty, and if your version of concealment makes people feel watched or worked, you've already failed. Nervous secrecy invites the exact scrutiny you're trying to avoid. Done right, this looks like ease, not evasion. And a third limit, the one that matters most for your life. This is a tool for genuine competition. Rivals, negotiations, people whose interests are truly set against yours. It is not a way to live among the people who are supposed to trust you. Conceal your intentions from a partner or close friend, and you don't gain power. You corrode the one thing those relationships run on. Sometimes the strongest move available is the opposite of everything here. A moment of real, disarming openness offered to the right person that buys a kind of trust no smokescreen ever could. The skill isn't concealing everything from everyone. That's just paranoia, exhausting and lonely. The skill is knowing which rooms you're in. Guard your intentions from the people playing against you. Give them freely to the people playing with you. Confuse those two, and this rule will do more damage to your life than any rival ever could. So let's come back to where we started, and to you. You're already in this game. That was true before you clicked on this, and it'll be true tomorrow. Every day you're in rooms with people whose interests don't line up with yours, deciding, usually without noticing, how much of your hand to show. The only real question is whether you play it awake or asleep. Balcha played it asleep. He mistook his own loud intentions for strength and walked, satisfied, toward an empty field. Don't be the one riding home certain you've won, about to crest the hill. The people who quietly beat you were never smarter than you. They were just quieter at the right moments, letting the surface talk while the real move happened somewhere you weren't looking, in a banquet hall in Addis Ababa, and on a coastline where a phantom army guarded the wrong beach while history turned on the right one. Here's what I want to know. Drop it in the comments. Where have you watched someone lose something because they announced their plan too soon, or paid that price yourself? Be specific. The stories in the comments on this one are going to be worth reading. If this shifted how you see the quiet operators around you, subscribe, because we're taking these old, ruthless rules apart one at a time, and the next one will change how you read people just as much. And remember the line that Balcha never understood until it was too late. Reveal your intentions and you hand people the power to stop you. Hide them, and by the time they see your hand, the game is already over. Win the victory first, then let them know there was ever a war.